Hey there, I'm Steve from Big Calm Tiny Homesteads in the Slocan Valley in the Kootenays of BC. Awkward question number one. Is it difficult to start a tiny home community? The answer is yes and no. The no is that it's been really easy, surprisingly easy, and a lot of fun to put our shingle out and see who's attracted to this type of lifestyle, whether it's tiny house living or permaculture activities or remote work or just being closer to nature and having a little bit more of a grounded life. That part's been really easy and wonderful. There's been a lot of people like that. We've had a continual string of interviews or visits from people who share those values, want to roll up their sleeves and get involved in projects and be out in nature, but also be around community and engaged in that community. And so in that sense, starting a tiny home community has not been that difficult. If you're true to your values, then it's a bit of a lighthouse for others that share those values. And so that's been great. But is it difficult to start a tiny home community? Logistically, financially, yes, very much so it is. And it's because starting a tiny home community has the same challenges as living tiny, getting a tiny house on wheels and finding an attractive place to park it. It's not that there isn't quality places to have a community, just like there's certainly some wonderful pro builders out there that are doing great things with tiny houses on wheels. There's a lot of shows that show the quality, that show the trend. Obviously, during the pandemic, it really proved out the value of remote work. And of course, there's a groundswell around permaculture and sustainable living or regenerative living and growing and self-reliance. But that really hasn't permeated some of the institutions that we rely on to build out these projects, whether it's financing a home or financing a project like Big Calm. The lenders, grantors, insurers, but especially the banks, they just don't believe that people want to live like this, which is, when you're here, it's hard to believe. And when you're speaking with people who are as passionate about tiny houses and all the clever features both in and outside of their houses, and they're living in them all season, that these are now very durable, all season, professionally built, certified buildings. And in a place like Big Calm, which is doing things properly, we're putting in a hyper clean type 2 septic system. We've got blazing fast, high-speed internet out here in the middle of nowhere. We've got clean water, fresh air, and a lot of space to do things, little projects in the garden or on the back trails. But the financiers, they don't see that. They're living a different lifestyle. It just takes a lot of convincing, a lot of persuading to show them that this is actually something that people want. And that by extension, that these are types of projects that are actually good for the community. It brings in people who probably bring in their own work remotely, people who are community minded and are available for resilient projects like disaster relief and volunteerism. So we see everything about a community project like this as being very win-win-win for everybody. And we've run through the business plan a million times, and the numbers are good too. That works for everybody. But because it's a fringe type of housing structure, or because it unfortunately lives in this kind of in-between of a fixed dwelling and an RV, that's really hampered the tiny house on wheels space. And then when we talk about equity investors, they're skeptical too, but they're more easily persuaded once they visit here and they see the potential and just how many people are interested in it. Unfortunately, their reaction is that something like this is too small and we should be able to pack in a lot more trailers and fill the space. They look for either bigger sites or they want to get into the building structure game themselves. And so they move on to those projects. So is building a tiny home community difficult? Yes, as a business, as a project, there's a lot of work to it, a lot of logistics, working with contractors and trades and seasonality, all of that stuff. That's difficult. Meeting the people who want to live here and seeing their enthusiasm and the ingenuity that they put into their tiny houses, that's wonderful. That's been really quite easy and the best part of the project.